And that was a good example of that game, David. You talked about when the one pawn fell, the house went with it, right? And I think, but Magnus also has a little bit of that edge. You gave the great Fischer quote where I don't believe in psychology, I believe in moves. Magnus doesn't believe in fortresses, he believes in winning. And you know, these guys, those are great comparisons, and I think Magnus being a combo of the two is really accurate.
But despite that, ever since he said that statement about not believing in fortresses, David, we've seen him hold a lot of games with fortresses.
Yeah, I did a chessable course with him, and I brought up the fortresses topic. Magnus wasn't happy with me. He was like, stop it, stop it. I know I said it once, but yeah, I think he's got mixed feelings on this now.
I think it was a great quote, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Magnus has defended many games with a fortress, and he sort of said it in jest, and we hold on to things. But at the same time, I mean, the point is he doesn't believe in a lot of things besides winning, and he does that.
Yeah, and before we deep dive into this, I have one question for you. If you had to give one advice to Nodirbek right now, taking on game 2, would it be do not trade queens, or what would it be?
Quite a rare move order, but he's got what he wants. He's got this Maroczy bind. We talked about it yesterday. Actually, Abdusattorov was on the white side of this pawn structure yesterday in one of his games against Levon Aronian, and yeah, it looks like white does have this kind of nice pawn structure where you've clamped down, and black is the one who has the onus of trying to break out. Magnus just moving instantly so far, just looks super confident.
I was just about to highlight that because I think the other comparison we can already draw between this game and the second game, Abdusattorov isn't taking time that says like he's lost or anything, but he's not blitzing out the game, right? And he doesn't have more time than he started with, like some of these players will when they're really in prep, or he's not nearly as up on the clock as he was against Aronian. And again, I think it's indicative of the fact that Nodirbek, of course, knows these positions as part of his opening repertoire, but he wasn't expecting it. Move orders he might try, or he'll just castle and prove us wrong. We'll see. But I'm suddenly surprised by how much Magnus is thinking here, and indeed he does this castle. So interesting that he took more than 2 minutes there.
Yeah, and eventually deciding that he wants to park his king on the king side, very logical. And Simon, you highlighted this move, d5. Wherever you go, I might just push my pawn forward again. Here I'm just tempted to take, and it looks like white's pieces, look at them, they're just so centralized, so ready for the action to happen. And
this will be, okay, wow. Magnus is being more aggressive right away, leaving nothing to the imagination here. No subtleties in terms of where he puts the pieces. He's all in with f4.
E5 is a move you can consider. It looks a bit weird here, though, to be honest.
That's really strange because we're on move number 10 right now. And again, black seems to have made all the natural moves, developing the pieces, creating squares for the queenside pieces, bringing the king to safety, while the eval bar does seem to creep up for white. But once again, these kind of positions can be so deceptive. And for black as well, you want to hold.
Might sometimes want to jump to c6 to trade off for this piece in the middle because you are cramped, you want to trade pieces. Yeah, he plays knight to d7. It's heading to c5. The other idea you mentioned.
Ooh, Gary the G-pawn.
Love it.
It's coming.
Love it. This is what we want to see. Just going for the crush. Not messing around, right?
Means business.
Yeah.
Even though a draw is probably fine for Magnus, he's in the lead right now. He wants to win. He wants to end this match as soon as possible. Second game of 4 and g4, g5. I mean, these top players, that's why they're so good. They adapt to the needs of the position. We saw Grinder Magnus in the previous game. Now we're seeing Caveman Magnus. Just impressive stuff. We're going to see him continue advancing those pawns.
Yeah, and I mean, the downside of that move, though, you know, the G-pawn, is that you do weaken the white king.
Yeah.
So at some moment, if white overextends, we talked about it before, those pawns that move forwards, they are your bodyguards. I've said this before, they do look after your king.
It's the deep dark forest that we were talking about. Mikhail Tal's deep dark forest of complication, where you bring your opponent out and the path out is narrow enough just for one to get out. And queen to f3, defending that central pawn, very often it does backfire.
You sound like you play these positions as black. Yeah, so
I like them.
It's okay. Your bias is creeping in, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think we might see that happen, Tanya. And okay, first Magnus kicks the other knight. What is this? Why are all white's pawns on the 4th rank gaining so much space? That's just greedy.
Pawns like he sets up his chairs. I love it. Well, here, look, he's playing fast here, and the eval is slowly getting closer to equal. And I think your point, Tanya, is no. I didn't disagree. I think that the position is aggressive, and white has a small edge. But these positions are, I'll put it this way, I think these positions are harder for white than they are for black.
Put that dark squared bishop on g7. So one of the retreats is bishop to f8 and bishop to g7.
Oh, hello.
Nodirbek says no.
He buys the bluff. Or was it a bluff, David?
I don't know if it was a bluff. I would have just taken the bait and asked Magnus to prove it. Now I'm looking at the fact that Magnus can, at the very minimum, take this bishop off the board. Is there something else? Okay, I'm going to dig deep here with our silicon friends. And knight d5, wow. After e takes d5, computer says...
Knight 5, yeah.
Bang.
What?
This is beyond most humans' capabilities, but Magnus, engines, they see this type of stuff. Another knight lands, and if this knight is captured...
The other knight, that is incredible. And the speed with which Abdusattorov refused to take that also shows his understanding of these positions.
You can part ways with the dark square bishop, even though you play g6, right? That's a scary thing to do when you've got those holes on the king side, h6 and g7 and f6, all those dark square holes. So he understands that there's no real way for white to take advantage of that. And that's kind of a deep understanding to do that when most people, I think, would be really afraid.
Yeah. And Magnus, it feels like you say, Simon, he was trying to be too clever, maybe, and actually trading off one set of minor pieces just makes Black's position look so much more attractive. Visually, the fact that he's slightly cramped doesn't, well, it's not an issue now, simply.
Yeah, it's quite nice as well, Queen d8, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
it's just a nice move to make.
Yeah, it's kind of a pretty way to...
He's done it once before in the game, by the way, Sai.
There
It's on the board.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's good that we got our expert here. I mean,
thank you, guys.
you know.
I got your back.
Yeah. This e5 move, I want to play f5. And
There you go. The other expert,
look at it.
Simon versus Tanya. Death match in the hedgehog. It's on. I'm sponsoring the match. We're going to play a thematic
Like
match
it.
where
Bring
Simon
it on,
plays
Sai.
white and Tanya plays black.
Yeah, he needs to take them now. I don't understand why you play Queen d8 and then don't
Danny,
play
you're
Queen
moving the
a8.
board.
Oh, that's not a good thing.
I thought I stopped that move.
I've made some decent predictions today, but I was just asking for science. I wasn't suggesting. I was asking for science, and now he goes for it. It might backfire for Nodirbek, right? And it's an affliction that all chess players should avoid when you're nervous. And I feel like Nodirbek saw a ghost there because e5 is a panic move.
Yeah.
Abdusattorov's kind of given him a helping hand. And, OK, rook f7 looks like he's contorting now to get his pieces over to protect the black king. The question is, what does Magnus do next? Is it your move, Simon? Just get rid of that black knight on h5, the kind of plug that's stemming the flow on the king side right now. It's not easy for either side. You can maybe go after the d pawn as well, but black's queen will move. Black's queen has targets as well on this side of the board.
I think he has gone after the d pawn.
He has.
So, yes, yeah.
Did it. Played rook
He's
e1.
switching to that one.
I'm waiting for Magnus as well to push his pawn and maybe switch the bishop to this diagonal.
I love that
I
idea.
love that idea.
That's,
That's full board awareness, Holmes. Get some.
Yeah.
OK, it might be coming soon.
Yeah, but he could go bishop c2 and do it that way, couldn't he? That could be quite...
And it's also so much tension on the board. I mean, look at what's happening on the king side with that pawn face-off, the F and G pawns. And then there's also action on the center, and then the overextension on the queen side. There's a lot going on in the position, and he does get the bishop here. This also does give the possibility for the c pawn to advance one step ahead at the right moment.
It's gonna blow up here in just a minute.
Yeah, and the eval bar is deceptive. There we go, it does drop, because this position could still go either way very quickly.
Yep.
And it's starting to open up now. Magnus taking a pawn there and moving his bishop in. I mean,
And yeah, time management, it's such a crucial part of these formats.
Yeah, maybe we can get the engine suggestions up right now. Does Abdusattorov have to move his rook away? What does the computer think? Because to me, it looks like the stakes are high and whoa, g5.
what a move. If it's good or bad.
Good or bad, it's a move.
It's a move.
It's a move, all right. Yeah.
Thing is, now you have some threats against your king. Now suddenly this pawn on e4 is attacked twice.
And I would say queen h4. I would just go back.
Such a genius idea, though. Because now the rook comes to g4 now.
This is
And then I thought...
And this is like...
somewhere and...
Wow.
Okay.
He's gone for it.
By the way, he's in this exact position, so...
Wow.
Taken the rook.
Not focused, like pretending they're not under pressure.
Time for an update. You know,
Time for an update.
most exciting position we've maybe had all day. And Windows comes along. So,
Long.
yeah. I mean, you know who Nodirbek reminds me of? I mean, we've talked about Magnus and how he reminds people of Karpov and Bobby Fischer, but Nodirbek reminds me of Garry Kasparov.
There's no immediate checkmate on the board. There's no way to win the material back on the board, but he just keeps the tension.
You earn that advantage earlier in the game so that in big moments like this. And there you go. Nodirbek did not have enough time to play the right move.
Yeah.
Magnus now touching the 1 minute mark. Will he get rid of this knight? And he does it. Great call there by Sai. And picks up the pawn. The D pawn is weak as well. And Nodirbek with just 25 seconds on the clock. Down 2 pawns now in the position. But he does pick up a key central pawn.
I didn't see knight take d4. You know, that simple move.
This is why they're so good. They see one move deeper. Magnus had foreseen that he's dropping the e-pawn, but he just gets his king out of dodge. The white king now is actually just running away, and Okay, nice pin there from Abdusattorov. Don't pick up that black knight. The white knight is needed to block the g-file. There's checkmate threats there.
It's crazy position. I mean,
Brilliant play by both sides.
yeah, brilliant. I mean, they're both under a minute now, and it's only a 1 pawn advantage. And Magnus giving the pawn back now.
I think it's a great idea. If he gets to the end game, he's the only player who can win, and we know he loves the end game. And if knight takes, well, then now d6 falls. I think you could probably take both ways, but rook takes seems to be the...
Nodirbek just avoiding any queen trades here. He has to go for Magnus's king.
Yeah, but rook takes d6 rook f8s, isn't it? I mean, it's such a
mess.
wild position, that, again, the evaluation part, I think, is misleading, and they're both so short a time.
I wonder if queen takes is better, so that if the knight moves, you can play queen d4 and get the queens off the board.
Nice, Danny. I think that might be the key. The white queen and king were both lined up on the f-file. You needed to move one of them. There would have been too many tactics, as Simon pointed out.
Look now, the evaluation bar is pretty
Great
even.
move, though. He just walks with the king to the center of the board.
Anyone's game, this.
I like that move because now he'll take the queens off the board even if he doesn't win the d6 pawn. I think he might have tried to play queen d4, just using the practical edge. What is that a win? He just queen d6?
Yeah.
I think for the
4 seconds. And look at, he reacts. He knows he's made a mistake. He goes back.
first mistake of the game in terms of practical play there. He just lost a pawn with gain of tempo.
But the queen guards g1 now, so knight f5 is on the agenda.
Yeah, oh, he's just swapping off.
Oh, man.
That was a shame.
1 second, and did he get flagged?
Well, under 1 second when he made that move, but it's not going to help him here. 2 pawns down, and he's had to retreat his knight. Attacker's gone. This is a mathematics equation now. Just knight f5 coming in.
David.
Look at the queen's board geometry. She doesn't guard g1 anymore, but she guards g5.
Yeah.
So there's no more checks that follow. Although king f1 would have allowed queen h3. So Magnus is very careful
1 second.
about that.
And this queen d4.
Wait, did he make it?
Did he,
Did he
move
make
or not?
it?
He didn't.
Killer.
He lost on time.
Yeah, he's losing.
Oh,
right here.
wow. And Nodirbek loses on the clock. What a game, what a win, an absolute wild ride there.